All right, we're going to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order on May 7th, 2025. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Thibodeau?
Here.
Alderman GOV is here. Alderman Moran?
Here.
Alderwoman Timmons?
She's here.
Alderman Clemens?
Here.
Alderman Clee?
Here.
Mayor Donches?
Oh, I thought you said, I'm sorry, she's not here. I thought you were calling Alderwoman Clee. I don't know what I was thinking. Look, I've got the Celtics on here. I was thinking about that. All right. Got the roll. Public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the committee? I don't see anyone. All right. We're going to go into communications, but I just wanted to mention the communication we received after the agenda, which we will take at the end of the communications. But basically, it is an analysis by Ms. Gerard, purchasing manager, regarding vehicle purchases which we could bring forward and make buy this equipment more quickly in order to avoid the potential impact of tariffs. So we will discuss that at the end, and there are no contracts for these yet, so we could wait for that, or we'll just discuss how to proceed when we get there. So the first communication is Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to Jackson Falls Hydropower interconnection in the amount of $291,250 funded from Hydropower Reserve Fund, 81 capital outlay and improvements. I move to accept, place on file, and approve the generator interconnection agreement for the Jackson Mills Hydropower Facility with Eversource in the amount of $291,250. Funding will be through Department 170 Hydroelectronic Operations Fund, Hydropower Reserve Fund, 81 capital outlay and improvements.
So is this Ms. Chisholm, I assume?
Hi, good evening. Deb Chisholm, Sustainability Department Manager. This is kind of phase 2 of the request from Eversource for the city to pay the $350,000 fee associated with the interconnection. So I was here back in March requesting the very beginning of that, the initial deposit of $58,750. And then we came in and got a supplemental appropriation to help fill the gap on that. So I'm here to ask for approval for the remainder of that money, the $291, so that we can write them a check.
All right. Any questions, comments? Alderman Clemens.
Thank you. You had mentioned there may be further costs. Is this the end of the line?
It's never the end of the line.
Currently, this is the money that we owe to Eversource for the project. There is a true-up at the end when the project is deemed complete, and at the end, when there's money left over, we would get that money back.
Okay.
But there is, in the interconnection agreement, there is room for additional costs that may come about as the project continues.
Alderman Clemens.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, that's fine. But basically this starts the getting that work done, though.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I remember doing the first part in the supplemental. So this 291, this was in your budget already and we're just using it?
This was not originally in our budget for interconnection. We had probably, I think we were thinking it was going to be more like 250, but when it came out as 350, we were like, oh, we don't have enough money for that. So we asked for the supplemental appropriation to cover that 350. We paid them the initial deposit, which was required as part of the interconnection agreement, and now this will be the remainder of the 350 to pay them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to purchase of a street sweeper in the amount of $324,303.63, funded from SURF 81 Capital Outlay and Improvements. Make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase of one Duovo 6000 sweeper from Alta Environmental Solutions in the amount of $324,303.63. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets Fund SURF 81 Capital Outlay and Improvements.
Mr. Rush?
Good
But
evening,
before you
everyone.
begin, I see you have a guest with you?
I had to bring backup tonight.
Oh, you do, yeah. So are you going to introduce her or
She's
what?
here to make sure that we do it right.
Oh, okay, good.
Mike Rush, Fleet Superintendent. This is a scheduled SURF purchase for the Street Department to replace one of our street sweepers. We did try to follow the EV initiative on this one, but we fell short of the grant. But this is the next best alternative. This sweeper actually cuts our current sweepers that we usually buy, our traditional sweepers, almost by 64% emissions. And that's due to the fact that it's a single engine-driven sweeper rather than a dual engine-driven sweeper. It'll do the same things that our old ones will do, but just a little bit more efficiently. So it is a little bit more environmental friendly. And the DeLevo brand does plan on executing an EV in the near future, probably in the next 1 or 2 years. So the sweeper components would be the same. The only difference would be that that one would be EV. So I just wanted to put that out there. But this is replacing one of our older sweepers. The street department operates 4 sweepers currently with 1 backup. So this will replace one of our older sweepers, and we'll move one of those to the back line, and we'll sell the old one at auction or wait for a grant to come up where we could trade it in for a possible EV. Happy to answer any other questions you have.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So looking at the SURF schedule, I take it this replaces the Freightliner Timco sweeper?
Correct, which are currently, we operate 2 of those. They're CNG. They are older. They are starting to get a little bit more difficult to get parts for. So those will probably be sold at auction. We actually probably held on to those a little longer than we should have.
Okay. So these ones they're better, and by the looks of what we had down on the SURF schedule, it's a little over 100,000 less in cost, correct?
Correct, yes. There's a cost savings there as well, and that's mostly due to the fact it's a little bit smaller of a sweeper. It actually does a lot more than our dual engine sweeper, but you're dropping a whole engine off of the sweeper, so that drops the cost down significantly.
Looks like a good deal. Thanks.
All those in favor, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We just recently started doing the street sweeping. I know they came through my neighborhood, correct?
Yes, I believe Superintendent Ibarra has had the street sweepers out for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
I think maybe starting about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think we actually got them out a little early this year.
Yeah, and truly, I do appreciate it. It's looking very good. But I know there's a lot of the crap coming down from the trees. But, so my question is, where this is a single engine and so on, is it more efficient, less, I know gas-wise and so on, or energy-wise and so on, it's more efficient, but are we going to see it not do as well, or?
So we were actually able to demo this sweeper, I believe it was fall of last year. We were able to keep it for 3 or 4 days. We actually demoed, I believe we demoed 3 different types of sweepers in the last year. This was the one that did the most. It also comes with a suction hose on the back as well. So if there's like some debris along the fence line or a hard to get curb line, they can actually stop the sweeper, take that hose off, and they can actually get a little bit closer. Something that our current sweepers don't have. The other benefit to this is it's waterless, so we can actually operate it in the winter if we needed to and we don't have to run water. And the filtration system is actually a little better. I don't know if you've seen on the really dry days, you see all the stuff coming out from,
Yeah.
you will not get that with this sweeper. It actually collects most of the particles down to, I forgot what the microns are, but it's pretty significant where you don't get that dust cloud throwing the dust up in the air, so.
Well, thank you.
You're very
Appreciate that.
welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to clock tower bridge removal and retaining wall construction in the amount of $735,290, funded from Factory Street Improvement, 81 capital outlay and improvements. Make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a contract, base bid plus a add alternative A for the demolition and removal of an existing steel beam bridge and replaced by a new retaining wall that is an extension of the existing river walk, which will allow the drainage inlet to be backfilled and a road constructed in its place with ED Sweat in the amount of $735,290. Funding will be through Department 183 Economic Development Fund, Factory Street Improvements, 81 capital outlay improvements.
Ms. Hannum?
Liz Hannum, Economic Development Director. That was very descriptive. So I'll give you, the basics is, the bridge is right behind the clock tower, and it's runs parallel to the river, and the bridge has essentially failed, and we can't get fire trucks through there anymore. And so if we want to do work on Water Street Bridge, which will be required in the near future, we have to fix that so that there is an entrance for the fire trucks, because the bridge would have to get shut down. So this is a necessity going forward. It is actually private property, but we're working on a deal to cost share with that organization, Clock Tower, so that we can move it forward in a timely fashion. They are not going to be able to replace it in the time frame that we need in order to move this project forward. So we've offered to cost share here.
Alderman Clemmons?
What is their cost, and when are they able to pay us back, I guess?
We're still in the negotiation process, but they have committed to at least $150,000 in cash to start the project. And then we're looking to figure out how to break out payments over time so that they are paying roughly half of the cost, but still kind of cash flowing for their organization.
Alderman Clemmons?
Is part of that deal that access remains open to the public in perpetuity as well as emergency vehicles?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Alderman Thibodeau?
And this is just a memory thing, and I am getting older, but this sounds like something we talked about last year.
Yes. Yes.
So this is not an addition thing, this is the same.
Yes. So last year's cost was the design portion to understand what the cost would be, so that we could figure out how to move this forward and what funding source we needed to use, things like that. So that was, I think it was just under $60,000 for that. And this will actually be the contract to complete the work.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to construction engineering services in the amount of $59,883, funded from Factory Street Improvement, 53 professional technical services. I move to accept, place on file, and award a contract for construction engineering services with Hoyle, Tanner and Associates in the amount of $59,883. Funding will be through Department 183 Economic Development Fund, Factory Street Improvement, 53 professional and technical services.
Liz Hannum, Economic Development Director. This is for the construction engineering costs associated with this to make sure that we're doing it right. Same project.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to cleaning services for DPW admin WWTF/street facilities in the amount not to exceed $90,000, funded from 54 Property Services. I make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a contract with Bill's World Class Cleaning Services for cleaning at the DPW facility, streets, and traffic building, and the wastewater treatment facility in the amount not to exceed $90,000. Funding will be through Department 160, Admin Engineering, 161 Streets, 168 Solid Waste, 169 Wastewater, and 54 Property Services.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. This contract before you is an extension for Bill's World Class Cleaning Service. They are the janitorial service that services DPW. They've been doing the building since it opened in '23. They've also started cleaning wastewater, streets, fleet, and traffic. So we're very happy with their performance thus far, and we're looking to continue them on for another year. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication, again, Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to Amendment 1 for the sewer rehabilitation program in the amount of $277,533 funded from Bond 53 Professional Technical Services, I move to accept, place on file, and approve an Amendment 1 to the engineering services contract with Hayner Swanson Incorporated in the amount of $277,533. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering Fund, Bond 53 Professional and Technical Services.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So this is engineering service for our sewer contract for 2025. This is with Hayner Swanson, now IMEG, a local firm that we've used for many years. Initially, we entered into a contract with them in December of '24 as they were pulling together the design to go out to our sewer contracts. We now have 3 contractors that are actively working in the city, and then this amendment is going to carry their services through the construction season. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to construction services for the Greeley Park Stonehouse in the amount of $595,466 funded from General Fund 54 Property Services, I move to accept, place on file, and award a construction contract for improvements to the Stonehouse at Greeley Park to COOB Hill Instruction in the amount of $595,466. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation Fund, General Fund 54 Property Services.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. This is the Greeley Park Stonehouse renovation project. Just to kind of summarize this project, it is to structurally shore up the roof, replace the roof, update the bathrooms, make everything ADA compliant, redo the floors, get the fountain functional. We wanted to bid in March. We received 2 bids early April. Cobb Hill was the low bidder. All the references checked out. They look like a professional organization, and we're looking to award this contract to them if approved here tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, Alderman Thibodeau.
So that is, well, I know there's another item coming up, but is that the full cost of the construction portion of this job?
Correct.
Which is way less than we were planning.
So originally, when we came forth with this project, we had just kind of Greeley Park improvement. That was the band shell, the wading pool in this project. So the engineer's estimate for this project was about $750,000 for the actual construction. So it's come in a couple $100,000 less than that. And then the other bit was engineering services, which you'll see here, which is typically about 15% for these sensitive structures. And then we had some contingency and just kind of track for inflation. But it has come in under, and we're very happy with the bids. We had two competitive bids, so we're happy with that.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to engineering services for the Greeley Park Stonehouse in the amount of $89,250 funded from General Fund 53 Professional and Technical Services, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the construction engineering services contract with Wright Pierce in the amount of $89,250. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation Fund, General Fund 53 Professional and Technical Services.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So this is for the engineering service of the project that was just approved. This is with Wright Pierce. They were the design engineer, so we're looking to keep them on for construction engineering services. As I said, this is about 15% of the total cost, which is in line for this type of effort. They'll do all the review of the submittals, and they'll have an on-site project representative overseeing the work. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to contract for wildlife management services in the amount of $406,412.20 funded from Solid Waste Fund 55 Other Services. Make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a 3-year cooperative service agreement between the City of Nashua and the USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services, Wildlife Services for an ongoing gull management project in the amount of $406,412.20. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund, Solid Waste 55 Other Services.
All right, Mr. LaFleur, I think, is on the Zoom.
Yes, sir. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid Waste. This is our bird contract. The USDA APHIS company has been with us for 20-plus years. They're one of the only ones in the New England area that does this type of work. That's why we contract them out. I'm going for a 3-year contract. They take care of all the seagulls and turkey vultures at the landfill, and they also will go around to special spots in the city where there's issues with vultures or birds or any other critters.
Alderman Thibodeau.
I'm assuming this involves the dispatching of said seagulls? Is that how we maintain the population of seagulls?
Yes, we're actually permitted to take 200 of them. We try not to. It's only the ones that are around the landfill. After trying to haze them away, we work there from 8 to 4, and as soon as the trash is covered up, they all seem to disappear. So it's only when we're doing working out.
Alderman Clemmons.
Is this required by the federal regulation?
Yes, sir. It's part of our permit. It's our operating permit to run the landfill. We need to have someone on site that's federally trained.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to Amendment 2 for water quality testing in the amount of $126,000 funded from Solid Waste Fund 55 Other Services. Make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a 3-year contract amendment for water quality testing services at the Nashua landfill sites for the Solid Waste Department with Haley Ward Incorporated in the amount of $126,000. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund, Solid Waste Fund 55 Other Services.
Mr. LaFleur?
Yes, sir. Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid. This is our water quality testing. Again, it's a DES requirement. This is to give us another $50,000 on top of a contract that we've already did with this company. We're actually having added testing needed for DES. They keep upping our testing requirements and wells that we need to do. So this is the added monies that we're anticipating should get us through the rest of this year and then the subsequent next 2 years to have the added monies there.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to single stream recycling in the amount not to exceed $1.2 million funded from Solid Waste Fund 55 Other Services. I make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a 3-year contract for the transportation and process of the City of Nashua's single stream recyclables with Casella Recycling LLC in the amount not to exceed $1.2 million, not to exceed $400,000 per year. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund, Solid Waste Fund 55 Other Services.
Mr. LaFleur?
Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid Waste. Just as it states, we went out to bid for our recycling contract for a 3-year contract. Casella won it again. They've been our preferred customer for 15 years now. They do everything that we want them to do. Everything's been great. This $1.2 million is just a placeholder. We don't usually spend that much. I think there's only been 1 year that we go over that. But I need to budget appropriately to cover our costs just in case the monies are needed.
All those, excuse me, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to energy recovery generator maintenance agreement in the amount not to exceed $48,048.60, funded from wastewater fund 54 property services. I move to accept, place on file, and approve a 6-month contract extension for services and maintenance of the city's 2 energy recovery generators with Milton Cat in the amount not to exceed $48,048.60. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund 54 Property Services.
Mr. Boucher?
Good evening. David Boucher, wastewater superintendent. We have 2 Caterpillar generators at the wastewater facility that burn methane gas produced by our anaerobic digester. We had a 3-year contract with Milton Cat. We want to add some equipment that's attached to the generators to also be serviced. So we just increased this contract 6 months, allow us time to develop a good scope of work to put it out to bid for a 3-year contract. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to wastewater chemical sodium hydrochloride in the amount not to exceed $300,000, funded from wastewater fund 61 supplies and materials, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the FY26 purchase of the chemical sodium hydrochloride with Univar USA Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $300,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund 61 supplies and materials.
Mr.
Dave
Boucher?
Boucher, wastewater superintendent. Thank you, Mayor. This is sodium hypochlorite. It's used at the wastewater facility daily to disinfect the wastewater processed before it goes to the Merrimack. We enter into or participate in the Northeast Merrimack Valley Chemical Consortium. This way we get the best pricing on chemicals. So the Univar was the low bidder in this one, and we'd like to use them again. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. This is for the FY26 season, so this is pending approval of the budget. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to wastewater chemical sodium bisulfate in the amount not to exceed $80,000, funded from wastewater fund 61 supplies and materials, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the FY26 purchase of the chemical sodium bisulfate with PVS Chemical Solutions in the amount not to exceed $80,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund Solid Waste Fund 61 supplies and materials.
Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. The sodium bisulfite is another chemical we use in the wastewater plant on a daily basis. It's used to remove the sodium hypochlorite out of the water before it's discharged to the river. In this one, we participated in the chemical consortium so we can get the best prices. Let's see, the JCI Chemical, the low bidder. Sorry, PVS Chemical. So we'd like to use them again. And again, this is for the FY26 season. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to wastewater chemical polymer in the amount not to exceed $650,000, funded from the wastewater fund 61 supplies and materials, I move to accept, place on file, and approve the FY26 purchase of polymer from Polydine Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $650,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund Solid Waste Fund 61 supplies and materials.
Mr. Boucher?
Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. Polymer is another chemical used at the wastewater plant. We use it to coagulate sludge, so we can remove the water from it, and it can be processed. This one's not through a chemical consortium. We have actual vendors that, because all polymers are different, we have them come in, do trials on our sludge. This company, Polyline, is the one that has the best polymer for our sludge type. So we'd like to continue to use them. Again, this is for the FY26 season, annual purchase. Be happy to answer any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
Regard to emergency services agreement in the amount not to exceed $50,000 funded from wastewater fund 55 other services. I move to accept, place on file, and approve the emergency services agreement with the National Water Main Cleaning for emergency collection system services on a will-all basis in the amount not to exceed $50,000. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund, Wastewater Fund 55 other services.
Mr. Boucher, your connection is not great.
You might want to shut his video off.
Do what?
You might want to shut his video off. Sometimes that makes it a little.
Hey, Mr. Boucher, could you shut your video off and see if the audio works better? If you can hear us?
We may have lost him.
All right.
Dave,
Mr. Boucher, can you hear us now?
Superintendent. Yeah, National Water Mains.
It might be better for Mr. Saunders.
Do you know this one? Mr. Boucher, your connection is bad, so Mark Saunders is going to do it.
So this, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So this contract before you is with National Water Main. This is for emergency services. If there's a sewer backup that they can't get to, this is the company we call to come out and help jet the line. They're also one of our lining contractors, so they'll be in and around the city for most of the summer. And I'll happily answer any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
Regard to change order for the purchase of supplies and parts in the amount of $15,000 funded from wastewater fund 54 property services and 61 supplies and materials. I move to accept, place on file, and approve a change order for parts and supply purchases with Kimball Midwest in the amount of $15,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund 54 property services and 61 supplies and materials.
Now, Mr. Boucher, I don't know, you want to try again on this one?
I'm on my phone. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we can definitely hear you.
I apologize. Yeah, Kimball Midwest is a company we started using to supply us with basic nuts and bolts. They keep everything stocked at the wastewater facility because we're a 24/7 facility. We have to have a lot of parts on hand versus going to different vendors and trying to chase down the parts. So they've been a good company for us. They also supply some high-end drill bits and grinder tools, small tools that we use. So this change order is to increase that line item for us to get us through to the end of the year. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to multi-year contract award for Mosaic Consulting Group, I make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a multi-year contract with Mosaic Consulting Group in the integration of UKG, frequently known as Kronos, Workforce Telestaff, Migration in the amount of $160,000. Funding will be through capital improvements, SURF, and info technology consulting services.
Good evening, Amy Gerard. This contract was previously approved in February. It was brought to my attention that it needed to be a multi-year contract as the final portion of it is coming from FY26 funds. So this will need to go to the Board of Aldermen for approval as a multi-year contract. So just bringing that to your attention.
So do you think we need to reapprove this, or you're just reporting
Maybe
this?
just reapprove it with a motion for it to be able to go to the Board of Aldermen.
All right. And Mr. Gouveia made the motion, right? All right, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. But you're up again, I believe. Are you going to be up again? Because we now have, is there a motion to accept and place on file, maybe it's Mr. Cummings, accept and place on file, without objection, we will accept and place on file a communication received from Mr. Cummings dated May 7th, received after the agenda was prepared. And with that, I will ask Mr. Cummings to address the communication.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. So I should preface my comments this evening by saying, although I'm seeking approval, by no means is this something that you have to act on tonight. I say that because I fully understand that you may want some additional details. But what I did want to do and make very clear to you all is that we've worked really hard internally in the city through the leadership of Amy Gerard, working with the various departments, including Mike Rush. We were able to identify some vehicles that we could purchase early. We had them slated to be purchased in FY26. Working with the finance team, we have the monies available to purchase these identified vehicles early. And if we did that, we would avoid potentially the tariffs and the price escalation through inflation that we are anticipating. So the request is a not to exceed amount of $759,148. And that would purchase the electric vehicles and a sidewalk plow for the school department. Again, all per the schedule that is provided as backup. Then additionally, and this is the bigger item I want to make everyone aware of, we're slated to purchase some Mack LR CNG vehicles. And if we purchase them prior to August, we could avoid at least a 10% increase that we know we will see if we purchase these vehicles post-August. And that's not a small bit of money. That's approximately $60,000 at least for each vehicle.
600,000.
600,000, I believe, is the.
Oh, you mean we'd save 60,000?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So I say that to you just to kind of preface my comments and give some sort of orientation as to the genesis behind this effort. I also want to make it clear that we have the monies currently available within the SURF Trust Fund with just over $1 million. I would note if we were to purchase these items using the cash available, that would bring the fund down to about $300,000. It would anticipate the Board of Aldermen appropriating additional monies to recapitalize that fund. Those monies wouldn't become available to July 1st. If those actions didn't occur, we would be left with about $300,000 in that fund, and I just want to make everyone aware of that. But I think that is something that shouldn't stop us from moving forward with this endeavor, because I believe every vehicle on here is a vehicle worth purchasing, and I would like to avoid the tax increases that we could potentially be getting if they were to be delayed.
All right, now just for clarification, what you're saying is that we could purchase with cash the Grounds 2012 McLean sidewalk plow for $416,000 and some dollars, $416,000 and some dollars. And then the 6 vehicles down below, starting with the Ford Transit van, messenger van, and we could get those 7 vehicles for a total of $759,148, avoiding potentially 25% increase or some level of increase from the tariffs and inflation. Correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
And we have enough money in the SURF account to do that.
Yes, sir.
And then you're suggesting that we could also, but not with the money we have in SURF, we could bring forward the top 4 vehicles on the list, each which costs 600, three of them 639, and one of them 571,000. We could do that also, but we'd need to probably bond that or something like that. But by doing that, were we to do that at a future date, we could save 10% on, at least 10% on each of those vehicles. Correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
All right, so I throw it to the committee now. We've discussed before the idea of trying to avoid these future tax increases. We do not have contracts, although we could get that for the next meeting, but are these solid prices or are these estimates?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I could, great question. Amy Gerard did work with the various departments, and we do have confidence in the numbers submitted before you. I will say, though, we know that these numbers are subject to change until we get them locked in. Even once we get them locked in, sometimes they change after that, but we do have confidence in the numbers as presented.
But you would have paperwork if we waited 2 weeks, or we could act now.
That's
up to
correct.
you. Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. I think you've kind of touched on the question that I had. In recent meetings that we've had, some of the things that we've seen is that we get these prices and we find that they're not locking in prices anymore. So if we go forward with this, you did have a not to exceed, so I feel comfortable with that number. So we might not be able to get everything on our wish list because you did put a not to exceed. So I appreciate that. I'm all for, and I'm going to put this right out here, I'm all for going with saving as much as we possibly can. So I'm leaning towards saying yes. But I want to put it out there that we also know that we faced this prior to any of these tariffs, that when there's been a delay even, and I know Alderman Clemmons and I have had heartburn about this, when we've had a delay of a month or 2 months, we've seen prices escalate very quickly. Is this a potential of something that could happen? I heard you just say there's no guarantee that prices aren't just going to go up because they're going to go up. So is that possibility anyways?
Yes.
With and without tariffs?
Yes, we did our due diligence to vet this list. These are the numbers that we have today. We do not have a crystal ball. You know, so time is not our friend here. The quicker we act, the more likely it is we will have a savings. As more time goes on, it will be less of a savings.
May I follow up?
Yeah.
Will they, if we gave a yes today, will they give us a guaranteed price that they will not go up tomorrow? Can we get a contract and then say, this is the price we're going to give you? Will they lock in a price? I guess that's the question I'm asking. Will anybody lock in a price?
So I'm going to answer that question if I may, Mr. Mayor. The market's dynamic, and I believe it's been slowing down, so we haven't seen that occur as regularly, but we have experienced. We have contracts in place. We have purchase orders issued, and we've had vendors come back to us and say, we're not honoring that anymore, and we're going to increase this, and you know, we have to pay it. Now, I think that is remote. I believe at this time, because of what we're doing, and because in a group, the best example I can give you is the letter of intent that we've been talking proactively with this group, and they have said to us, just send us a letter of intent, a non-binding commitment, so we can feel comfortable to order our supplies, and we will honor that price. But you have to do that, and you have to get the purchase done prior to August. And I believe that to be true for the rest of these vehicles as well. And that's why I would encourage you to favorably support this initiative. But if you need more information, I totally understand that too.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yeah, thank you. So can you give me a little bit more of a breakdown on what the vehicles, like were these all vehicles that were intended to be replaced next year, or were some of them moved up the schedule?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, these are all FY26 slated to be vehicles. Nothing was quote unquote bumped up.
Okay. I do have another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was a little confused on this chart that you provided because, you know, I see on here, for example, like 2026 Nissan Leaf and then it says year A in Exhibit A, and I assume that's what it's replacing. But then when I look down at the police vehicles, it says 2016 Chevy Impala. What are we replacing? I'm a little confused. If we could go line by line on what it is we're replacing each thing with.
Sure. I'd be happy to, if I may, Mr. Chairman. So starting at the
go
very
ahead.
top, we have 3 Mack LR CNG vehicles for solid waste. Then we have 1 Mack LR CNG, I'm sorry, 1 Mack Tara Pro CNG, again, for solid waste. Then we have a school
All right,
purchase.
but let me just stop you. So those are the ones that would not be purchased in cash, but instead would require a bond issue because we don't have, 3 million in cash to purchase those, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
But those are the vehicles we are replacing, correct? So like the 2019?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yes, it would be our intention to replace these. We would do it through the proceeds of a bond authorization.
Got it. Yep.
Except for the grounds to McLean sidewalk plow, which is $416,000 for the school department, which is on the schedule. It is something that we need. It's a replacement, and we would be using cash right now to purchase that vehicle. And then if you were to move down to the green box, and the reason why there's 2 different boxes, I should clarify, is because the orange box is the more imminent price escalation.
I think on our exhibit, we don't have the colors, do we?
Oh,
Yeah, we do.
You
Oh,
do.
I don't, oh.
Some are black and white.
Well, I don't know how I'm.
All right, well,
The top boxes are orange.
the green box is below and the
The
orange
top
box is.
boxes are orange. and
All
the
right,
bottom
I'll just
boxes
write
are
that.
green.
they were categorized in 2 different ways. The top tier, I should say it that way, those are the more imminently needed purchases in terms of avoiding a price escalation. The secondary tier box would be not as dire, but still nonetheless, we anticipate wanting to avoid some of the tariffs and price escalations with these purchases. So then, with that being said, we have a van, a transit van for purchasing that needs to be replaced. We have a
But
Ford.
just again to clarify, what Alderman Clemmons, I think, is asking, we're not buying a 2016 vehicle, we are replacing a 2016.
Correct. Yep, everything here is replacing vehicles.
Got it.
Again, a Ford Explorer for emergency management, a Nissan Leaf that's the DPW engineering and administration, a Chevy Impala for the police, a Chevy Impala for police, and then Chevy Impala for police. Again, all replacement vehicles.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. So these are going to be replaced, all of them are going to be replaced with electric vehicles? Or the police one's going to be hybrids?
It's my understanding that these would be electric vehicles.
Okay.
As it happens, just as an aside, I ran into one of the fire inspectors this morning who was driving a new electric vehicle. He was inspecting a gas system and a propane setup. And I said, hey, what do you think? And he said, it's fantastic. He said, it works really well. We put some of the cleaner equipment cleaner stuff in the front, like where the hood is, and we put the dirty shovels, et cetera, in the back, and it's great. So we've done a good job there, I think, for the fire department. Yes, Alderman Clemmons.
Yeah, the only reason I asked the question is because I know that in some instances, the police have come forward saying that, they, in some instances, have to get a hybrid, or for whatever reason. There's been various reasons as to the reasons why. I guess from my perspective on this, I would be more apt to wait and get contracts in front of us. Do you think you can do that by the next meeting?
We'll do the best that we can. I mean, I can't commit to it, but we will certainly try to put the package and the paperwork together, so you have the contracts.
I mean, a delay would be on the other end. I mean, you can put that together, and can you get it signed will be the issue, and
Right.
probably you can. Signed by the seller, right?
I'm sorry, say that again, Mayor?
If there were a delay, it would be on the seller's end. You can put the paperwork together, you just have to get the seller to sign on,
Yes, the delay would be on them providing us the paperwork.
right?
Which would happen anyway, even if we, yeah.
Alderman Govea.
If I may, though, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Because to Alderman Clemens' point, there is one vehicle that, and I know it's not the police vehicle, but this afternoon I learned that Emergency Management, the Ford Explorer, it's my understanding that is to be purchased as an SUV, but, I'm sorry, as an electric vehicle, but if that was not to be an electric vehicle, we wouldn't proceed with the purchase. So that is, to your point, Alderman Clemens, we'd be working with the departments to ensure that these electric vehicles are the ones being purchased, because the reason why they're categorized as being an imminent need for purchase is because of the batteries that are sourced from China for these electric vehicles. And so the need wouldn't be there to buy it more imminently if it's not going to be an electric vehicle.
Alderman Clemens.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess what I would like, I'd like to know what the cost difference is between that and a regular vehicle. I understand that we're looking to move to electric vehicles for a reason. For the environment, also for the maintenance and things like that, but I think if we're finding that there is a significant, which we have not so far found that there's a significant delta enough that, would make it, but I like to look at these things on a case-by-case basis personally.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree. I think in this situation, I would like to see a comparison of what everything EV versus gas would be. I think given the situation we're in, I think we all have agreed that buying EV in the long run tends to save a little bit of money, but since we're buying a lot up front, I think we could see difference in prices. I don't know. I just would like to have that data in front of me. I guess one of the questions I have, so the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that was to be bonded, correct?
Not number 5. Number 5, we could, the idea was we
Okay.
could buy number 5 and
So 1 through 4, all the solid waste would need to be bonded.
Yes.
And all of these were going to be in the SURF plan for next year?
For FY26, yes.
Okay, so I guess I'm having a lapse. How are we going to buy them in 3-4 months? But if we were to put them under contract and not necessarily engage in the sale, why would we need the bond? Because we could sign an LOI all day and hold it until July 4th, right after the budget gets approved, and not bond?
No, these would always need to be bonded, first and foremost. Second, the purchase needs to be executed by August.
Okay.
So, and the bond authorization process takes, I would say 6 weeks. So, and we haven't even started it. The memo goes into detail to say that first reading we're looking to do at the next meeting in May to try to expedite it as best we can. I was just suggesting we do this letter of intent to try to get the prices held until we get the bond in place and we can actually execute on the contract, because that would be acceptable.
Alderman Govea.
Okay, so for those ones, we were bonding anyway.
Correct.
Okay, that makes more sense. I thought we were bonding solely because of the timeline of what we were buying. But if we were either going to bond today or we were going to bond in 3 months, we're just trying to get the bond through before that August deadline, and that's why we would be coming to it today?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
And in full disclosure, it was because of this issue that we decided to push the bond forward. Up until this conversation here, where we're working on this internally, we actually didn't have the bond kind of figured until fall. And then we said, hey, if we can do it now and save the taxpayers some money, we should try to do that.
Alderman Govea.
Yeah, for me in that case, then I wouldn't mind seeing a bond resolution come forward, just because we were going to bond it anyway, whether it be now or later, so we might as well try to at least get the lower price. And especially because this was a bond that was scheduled. It's not like we're taking on an extra bond just to try to save. So that kind of eases me a little bit. I thought this was new bonding that we weren't anticipating, but the fact we're anticipating it relieves a lot of my stress. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Alderman Clemmons.
So this was, these were included in the ad hoc committee on the bond schedule?
No, because they were considering projects only of, what, 5 million and up? These are
Right.
vehicles.
And SURF, and then
Like
in
the
addition to
fire
this-
engines and stuff that we've bonded were not part of that analysis.
That's all correct, and then in addition to that,
Okay.
this is not general obligation, this is solid waste funds.
Okay.
Which is an enterprise fund, and none of those identified expenditures were really part of that process.
Well,
Go ahead.
the only thing I'll say is that that's not really, you can say that about the wastewater because it really is independently funded with the fees. But we do not cover the expenses of the solid waste. I mean, that's always been supplemented with taxpayer money. It's
Yep.
just,
We cover,
So I don't-
we cover part of it with
we
expenses.
cover part of it,
Part
but
of it.
not nearly all of
I
it.
think the budget calls for $4 million, $4.5 million transfer, something like
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Director Cummings, for the sidewalk plow, it says it's manufactured in Canada. Was there any work done to see if there's any manufactured in the United States? Or is it like just a,
That is where the identified vendor comes from, and that's what we were working with off of the SURF list.
follow-up?
Yes.
I guess my question would be, was there also due diligence to see if there's a comparable model within the United States that wouldn't be impacted by tariffs and is of same or similar quality and price?
I would have to double check that, I don't know.
Another follow-up?
Yeah.
And with like the Fords and the Chevys that, I'm assuming we would replace those with Ford and Chevys as well, or something comparable? Those batteries are, EV batteries are from China?
Yes.
Interesting. All right, thank you.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, I'm happy to make some sort of motion to, you know, have you, if you need it, to have you explore these things, but I would prefer the actual contracts to come before us.
All right, so the consensus seems to be that we would come forward at the next meeting, the next meeting of the Finance Committee, roughly 2 weeks from now, a little bit more, with contracts for 7 of these vehicles, the ones that would be purchased in cash. And we would look into whether there is a gas alternative to the electric vehicles that are on the list. And we would look forward to a bond issue resolution to cover the first 4 vehicles, which we're moving up in time in order to try to save money. Correct? Is that the consensus? Yes?
One more. Just
Alderman Govea.
want to make sure I have this clear. So all of the other 7 that weren't being bonded, those were going to be in the bond schedule for next year, saying that the SURF is funded via the bond.
Not the bond schedule, the
Or,
SURF
sorry, the SURF schedule, not the bond schedule.
That's
So all
correct.
of these would be on there, okay.
That's correct.
So then I'd be fine getting the ball rolling early. I haven't heard of anybody talking about cutting SURF funding. So I feel pretty confident the Budget Review Committee will do their job on that end, and we can at least start to get the ball rolling.
And by get the ball rolling, does that mean bring the contracts in for the next meeting? Or vote it right now? I just don't know what.
Oh, I'd say bring the contracts in.
All right,
Because
fine.
I want to see the gas EV
Yeah,
alternative. so.
all right, fine, so
So-
let's do that.
To
So
that point, though, if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to get some direction as to which vehicles you'd actually like to see as being gas and not electric, so we're very clear on what we should be obtaining.
I think any that are electric.
So you want all of them? You want to see all of them? with
Is
the-
there a gas alternative, and if so, what's the price differential?
Okay.
I would agree.
Alderman Clemmons.
I mean, that's fine if that's what the committee wants to go to. I'm okay with excluding the sidewalk plow out of
Oh,
that
yeah.
conversation.
Well, that's not an electric thing, is it? No.
No.
Oh, okay. So there you
Can
go.
we, can we,
Alderman Moran.
can we see if there's something made in America?
Duly noted, I will try. I kind of caught that, so we'll definitely do that one. The reason why I'm asking for clarification on the vehicles is because we have a policy from you that says that we should be trying to buy electric vehicles. And so, and I'm fine to do whatever you'd like. I just want to be clear on what it is that you'd like us to do. And so, I got the direction needed, and so we'll execute accordingly.
But Mr. Rush might have something to add. This is the vehicle expert,
Yeah,
so.
I just wanted to clarify a couple things that were talked about. So the sidewalk plow, we have looked into other brands. We're not looking to do anything electric with that because of what they do. The reason that we chose this brand is because the other 9 machines we have are the same brand, and we try to keep the fleet the same for parts and for reasons. In regards to the solid waste vehicles, those are going to stay CNG. The electric ones are about $1.1 million, give or take. The CNG ones are currently at $496. And the other thing is, we do the letter of intent, we can probably hold most of those solid waste vehicles that are in the bond at that $496 number, instead of that higher number of $603,000 or something like that, whatever that number is that's slated. So I don't know if that clarifies anything, but those vehicles are kind of staying the way they are.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you for that, I appreciate it. I think my worry would be if the tariffs stay in place and we continue to buy vehicles made outside the country that need replacement parts that are also made outside the country that are also tariffed, and then it adds up for over at least for the next 4 years.
Yeah, so the vendor Labrie that's going to be building these next set of trash trucks, they are based out of Canada. They're not looking at heavy increases right now as far as tariffs or inflation, but that 10% number is there. And 10% for just those 4 vehicles is about $175,000 in savings. So
May,
Yeah, Alderman Moran.
you are being so logical and so understanding of your craft, but we have someone who, if a country doesn't want to be the 51st state, that could go up another 20%. And I don't mean to discredit, I'm just worried that it won't end. And then we're going to have to not be able to, we'll be paying more and
I think that's
more.
what we're all afraid of, and
Yeah.
that's why, we work together as a team to try to put this together and try to make it make sense and try to save a little bit of money out of the budget for the taxpayers.
Thank you for
And so specifically, to getting back to Alderman Moran, your point, we will look at this school sidewalk plow to see if we can find a US-made version, and we'll work with the school department to see. I don't know, but we'll see what we can do on that one.
Alderman Clemmons.
So I guess here's where I want to be clear. What I don't want to see happen is in 2 weeks, we're presented with options. I like options, but I would like to have contracts, right, that we can approve. So, and I know that that's a difficult situation to put you in, but the reality of it is that most of the time, 90% of the time, we end up going with the electric vehicle, right, because it makes sense. I think it serves our constituents well to look at both options. So if you can get a quote on the, from the Ford dealership, for example, on the equivalent of the hybrid, the fully electric, or the gas, bring that to us, and we will choose which one of those three, but get a quote from whoever you are reaching out to, I guess, or however the bidding process goes, put that into the bid so that when it comes back, we know what our options are and can act in 2 weeks.
So I'm hearing, using the Ford Explorer example, 3 contracts, and then you choose one of those 3.
Well, I guess,
Just to be, gas, hybrid, full electric. And we'll get 3 different quotes, i.e. contracts, and then you can elect to go with whatever one you so desire, assuming the department also supports it, by the way. That's the other point here. We got to make sure that it conforms with the needs of the business objectives of the various departments. But understanding that to be the case, then we could absolutely obtain 2, 3 contracts, and then the group can decide.
Is that realistic? Is some vendor going to say, okay, we'll tie up 3 vehicles and wait
That's
for you to
not-
decide which one you want to buy?
so can I clarify?
Yes.
That's not what I was really saying, because the contract would be for I assume would be for the electric vehicle, right? But we would have a quote on what
Okay.
the other 2 options or one option is on the side.
So to further that point then, 1 contract, but you'd like the data, and essentially you'd like the recommendation with the contract, but you want to know what the alternatives were. So if you choose
Exactly.
not to go forward with that contract, you at least know, and then we could follow up with additional contracts later.
Correct.
We can
All right,
do
and
that
why
too.
don't we use some discretion? So if hypothetically we find that the gas vehicle is 1/2 the cost, maybe we'd come in with that. But if they're fairly close or, reasonable, we would do what you just suggested. We'd do what you just
Yes, I
suggested.
think that makes perfect sense.
Okay. Anyone else? Alderman Govea?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go. And I mean, I'm not looking for a full quote. If it's just on there as, hey, this is the gas and this is what our estimation would be, I think that's sufficient in that circumstance, so. I think just having the options there to look at them will at least make me feel a little bit more comfortable with these.
Alderwoman Clee?
I just want to echo my colleagues. I have trust in Director Cummings and so on, that if something comes in half the price of an electric, he's not going to put the electric on the contract and say, they're not going to care, and give us a quote for I think he's going to do the contract with the better price and so on, meeting the needs of the department and so on. So I think he's going to put forward the appropriate contract. And so I say 1 contract coming forward to us with the quotes and so on. And I really don't want to see 3 contracts, because you know us, we're never going to make up our mind. Honestly, you don't want to do that to us. We'll be here forever. And I have 2 dogs to get home to eventually someday. So please, just 1 contract and notes on the side. I really think that is the best way to handle things, and I appreciate all the hard work you guys do, so thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, Alderman Thibodeau.
The top portion with the 3 solid waste vehicles. So a few minutes ago, it was expressed that these would be in the $400,000 range. So these prices we see here are the estimated escalated prices if we don't act by August?
No, these are what they would be if we don't, yes, these are what they would be if we don't act by August.
Okay. And if we acted sooner than, it was 400 and
Well,
496?
Oh, that's great.
That's a big change.
All right, do it.
So now we're talking about the bonded vehicles, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying that if we do this quickly, we get them for roughly 500,000 apiece, 496, and if we do not, it's 639.
Close to that estimated, sir.
So really, by acting quickly, we save over $500,000, right?
It's a no-brainer.
Potentially, we save that much. Okay. Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for the rest of, so the school, the purchasing, emergency management, admin and engineering, and then the police vehicles, the number on the right, is that what we anticipate the pay now, or is that the anticipated escalated price?
The budgeted price. Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you. The pricing that's on this list is the pricing that was budgeted within SURF.
And now we're talking the 7 vehicles we might purchase by cash?
Correct.
So these are the SURF numbers.
Yes, that's
And
where
have you
these
talked
numbers
with
came from.
the vendors to see if the vehicles can be obtained for these numbers?
We have not done that due diligence yet.
All right, so that's what
That
you'll do
is
between now and the next
correct.
meeting. All right. But the other vehicles at the top, the 4 at the top, we have more information and it's, okay, and those are the ones that we would anticipate bonding.
Yes.
Okay, Alderman Govea.
Thank you. And I think I'll be interested to see what the real prices come in at. I mean, it's not unfrequent that we see it coming in underneath where we schedule our bond, or our SURF, not bond, sorry, where we schedule the price in for SURF. So I think that's also kind of a key point for me to look at.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody here for their patience tonight with the committee and for going through this exercise, going through the next 2 weeks of getting these quotes and the contracts, because we are doing a service to every single taxpayer in this city by going and doing this. And this is not an easy task, and it's new. It's a new way of doing things for us that we were forced into. None of us are used to this. And so, I just want to really sincerely tell you all thank you for the work that you've put into this, that you will continue to do, and, it doesn't go unnoticed.
Thank you.
Alderman Moran.
I'd like to echo my colleague at large's comments, and, I know we've heard comments about maybe we'll buy 2 dolls instead of 30 or something along those lines, but when it comes to these crucial equipment that the city needs, that's not really an option to keep the city functioning. This isn't shopping at Walmart. We need these things to keep the city going.
All right, any other comments on this? I think, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Amy, Mike, for your help, and we will see you in 2 weeks. All right, so we're through with that one. We're on to new business resolutions. R25-154. Alderman Govea.
Authorizing the city of Nashua to enter into contracts with Sauhegan Valley Transportation Collaborative, Nashua Community College, Revere University, Town of Hudson, and Town of Merrimack for transit services. And I will recommend final approval.
And we have Director Sullivan on the Zoom.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee. Matt Sullivan, Community Development Director, on behalf of R25-154. For those who've been on the Finance Committee, this is an annual resolution approving the town, or the city rather, to enter into revenue contracts with 5 separate agencies. All of these contracts being variable in form, but all of them representing revenue coming into the city for Nashua Transit and NTS services being provided on behalf of these agencies. 2 of these are educational institutions for which we enter into pass-based contracts, essentially granting students the ability to ride the bus at a reduced fare at relatively high volumes. Two of these contracts being specifically with municipalities, the town of Hudson and the town of Merrimack for paratransit on-demand response services. And the final contract being with the Regional Transportation Collaborative, that being the Sauhegan Valley Regional Transportation Collaborative for paratransit and on-demand services within the towns of Amherst and Milford predominantly, but that region of the Nashua region. I'm happy to answer specific questions about the rates being presented, but I'd say generally that these do represent a modest increase in cost to each of the agencies being served, and that's based on the fact that we anticipate entering into a slightly larger contract with our transportation provider, Transdev, over the coming months. And so we've accordingly adjusted the rates up slightly. And certainly these do represent a portion of the revenue that goes into the Nashua transit system, and therefore a portion of the match that the city of Nashua provides to the federal funds that come into the system. Happy to answer questions about any of these contracts, ridership, or the specific dollar amounts if those do arise. I'll just note that this is a much more simple system than what was presented last year. We had 2 contracts, in fact, with the town of Merrimack because there were multiple funding sources, but we've consolidated that into one contract for this year. Again, happy to answer questions that the committee may have and look forward to your support this evening.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. I'm going to fully support the resolution. It's revenue coming into the city, and I know that you've done your due diligence there. My question is a little off of base, so Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, if I'm off, you can tell me so, but my question is a little bit more broad, and it has to do with our funding for the transit system okay so far with the federal government, or is there talk about us not having the bus next year as well? As long as, might as well throw that in with everything else the Trump administration's getting rid of.
Go ahead.
Alderman Clemmons and Mayor, if I may address that. So Alderman Clemmons, it's a great question. It's actually one that we discussed in some detail last night at the Budget Review Committee as part of Community Development's budget. To summarize, we simply don't know, but there's no signal to date from FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, that there's any reduction in funding from the federal side of things. We've received no indicators that there's any intent to cut funds. And in fact, we recently received our apportionment for the upcoming fiscal year, suggesting that funds are obligated and are anticipated to come into the city of Nashua. What's a bit more complicated is that for those that have worked adjacent to the transit system for many years, our fund sources there's a multitude of them. We rely on more than 20 different funding sources that are patched together to form the basis of our budget. What is at risk, I would say, is the state funding that comes through the operational budget and NHDOT. We're all aware of the fact that there's a significant revenue gap in the state budget. In early iterations of the state budget, there were actually very minimal funds allocated to supporting public transit operations. We've since seen an increase in those monies in the most recent iterations of the budget. But what we're really, I think, biting our nails about is the fact that the state budget continues to be a very political process and one that's very volatile when it comes to transportation funding. And so my concerns lie instead with the state budget and not so much with the federal budget, Alderman Clemmons. But certainly, as we all know, our transit system, like many in the region, certainly across the country, we run on a year-to-year basis. Every year, we're at risk of losing funding and ability to operate the service in the way we'd all hope. But we have no immediate signals of any direct changes over the coming fiscal year.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Clemmons.
No.
Alderwoman, sorry, Klee.
Okay.
Alderwoman Klee.
That's okay. I didn't know my name earlier tonight, so it doesn't matter. On the same lines, and maybe you answered it and I just didn't quite hear it. My question is to the grants, and it may lay within the state. And again, you may have addressed it, and I didn't quite hear it. I know we patchwork our funding and our grants and so on. I know this funding, and I too will be approving this, so please understand that. Are we in danger of losing any of the grants that kind of help fund this? Are you hearing any dog whistles to that concern? I too have been following the state budget. You know, I know that the House cuts and the Senate returns, and then they kind of fight back and forth. So, are we worried about that in any way?
Mr. Mayor, if I may respond.
Yes.
Always, Alderwoman Clee, we've seen various sources of funding come into the system and then go away from the system over years. We've had Jobs Act funding come in, and then we had to find a way to fill that gap. We currently have Bureau of Elderly Services funding that we operate based on, providing specific services through our public transportation system to elderly individuals that need access to services. We do have concerns about those funds moving forward. They come through the DHHS, but then, every day we're learning more about what the future holds for those monies. And so, I'm hesitant to say whether I'm overly concerned about any specific source, but I guess what I can say with confidence is that over the next 3 to 6 months, as the state budget proceeds through its process, we are going to learn a lot more about whether or not the general fund allocation that the city provides to the system is adequate to maintain a level of service being provided. What I will say, and this is maybe a cliche answer, is that, these 5 revenue contracts are continued annual demonstration of the value of public transit across the Nashville region. These 5 entities, 2 of which are municipalities that are facing the same constraints that the city of Nashville is, continue to voice their clear support for providing public transportation services within their community. And so, I think despite the federal risk, the state risk to funding, all signals within the communities that we serve and the populations that we serve signal the fact that our service is absolutely necessary. So while I am concerned about our budget, I'm confident that the communities and certainly the city of Nashville will step forward to ensure that we're able to at least operate the baseline service needed to support our riders moving forward.
May I
Yes,
follow
go
up?
ahead.
Thank you. I 100% agree with what you just said, and the majority of these riders, paratransit, are those most vulnerable and need it the most. I know I have constituents who call upon us to help them, and these communities don't have the services that we have, so they rely on us to help out, mutual aid, whatever you want to call it. So I appreciate that we go that extra distance. But I do have one just real quick question. With Medicaid and so on being cut, does that affect this funding and anything like that? We don't get any kind of that type of funding. I know it's DHHS, but it's not part of that, correct?
That's correct, Alderwoman McLeod. This quick question came up last night. We are in no way associated with insurance provision or Medicaid funding. You could argue that's a good and a bad thing. The good being we're not impacted by the very changes that you're talking about. Has no impacts to the NTS service.
Okay, thank you very much, and I appreciate the time.
Of course.
Anyone? Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll also support this. I did see today that the Senate Ways and Means, I think unanimously might have,
Put the money back
not as much.
in. No.
Not as much as the governor had proposed, which is still, I'm glad they raised it from the House, because having served in the House, I'm very familiar with the lack of competency in that chamber, especially with the House leader having sank his multi-million-dollar company into the ground. You can't take financial advice from that guy. But I was disheartened that the Senate Ways and Means didn't restore Governor Ayotte's full revenue projections so we can fully fund what she had originally projected, which is better than what would come out of this. And that means that not everything's going to get restored to what the governor originally proposed, and that could mean impacts here to the transit system, which is unfortunate.
Certainly.
Anyone? All right, so the motion is to recommend final passage of the resolution. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
New business ordinance, we have none. Table in committee, nothing. Record of expenditures, Alderman Govea.
I move that the Finance Committee has compiled with the city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period of April 11, 2025 to May 1, 2025.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. General discussion. Anyone with general discussion? Public comment. We'll call any member of the public, but there really isn't anyone here. So We now go to remarks by Alderman. Alderman Moran.
Thank you. Personal privilege, I guess. I would just, I know at the last Alderman meeting, I was wishing my daughter Violet a happy birthday, but this past Sunday, she had her first Holy Communion at our parish, and I just wanted to recognize her for that milestone in her Catholic education.
All right, that sounds good. Anyone else? All right, well, given that the business is concluded, I will look over to Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I'd like to motion for adjournment.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And the meeting is adjourned, meeting of the Finance Committee is adjourned at 8:24 PM.